Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you would do a 6-pair splice. So we'll pretend like these are two separate cables and that they've been cut by something, okay? So generally speaking, you're going to prepare them the same way that I showed you how you would prepare a drop in either a PED or in a NID. So again, you want to have about that much space on either side, roughly. So again, just like what we did before, you score it. Okay, you expose it. Take your little cutting string here. Okay. Holy cow. Sometimes it just doesn't want to cooperate. There we go. So, a little bit too far on that side, but oh well. That's the way it goes. And we'll do the same thing on this side. As I told you guys before, always leave a little bit exposed. Pull your conductors out. Of course, it's always easier when you've got 2 kilometers of cable to hold on to than it does when you've got 6 feet of cable to hold on to. Okay. Okay, so we've got it all exposed. We've got the holes punched out. Now, unfortunately, what you would need in this particular application is what they call a coin bond, which I don't have any. So we'll have to kind of improvise in this particular scenario. So, generally speaking, what you have with a coin bond is it's a loop. So part of it will stick in through here as per normal. Right? It sticks out like that. And then what happens with a coin bond is there's a little loop that you would use once you push your stem through to the other side. Now, like I said, it's a real pain in the backside because, of course, I'm not dealing with 50 feet of cable, I'm dealing with 6, and it doesn't really want to twist the way I want it to. So what you see here right now in a coin bond application, you would then apply your nut to the so it would be something secured like that. And so what that does is, even though your cable comes to an end, because you've got your bond on one side and your bond on the other, you've created continuity on the sheath, which is what you're trying to achieve. Okay? So then it's the usual process that we went through before, where you have to get all this fun stuff out of the way so you can trim all these strings off. So in this particular case, we put our conductors back in just like that. And then these would go back in on the other side. Okay, so now you've got that put together like that. You're bonded. So then, this is what your splice kit looks like for a 6 pair. They say these are also for 12 pair, but it's a pretty tight fit. So, this tab will break off, and then usually I will try and cut this off as much as I possibly can. Just so it doesn't get in my way. Okay? So, what you're going to do next is you're going to get that wedged up there as far as you can. Okay? And once you've got that in there where you want it to be, then you're going to tape it. Make sure that it doesn't slide on you. So, just a couple of loops of the tape. Just like such. Now you're ready to splice. Okay, so again, just like what we did before with the previous copper pairs, get rid of that. Of course, my snips are dull. So if you cut it from the bottom, then you can just peel it off like that. Again, cut the plastic, and then line up your conductors. So in this particular case, split your conductors. Like so. And this is where you have to be careful because you're actually physically pulling them apart, and this is where you can make the mistake of actually pulling them apart. So from here, you are ready to splice. Now normally you would have a Scotch lock gun, but I don't have one of those. So what I do have is just the loose Scotch locks. So these used to come in cartridges. Okay, then what you do is you line up your pairs. So you'd split these bad boys like this. And because you don't want to have too much bulk, because you can see this is all the room that you've got. So you take your snips and cut your conductors like that. And then you take your Scotch lock, which would normally be in a gun, and you would get them inside there like that. And then what you've got to do is you got to take a pair of pliers in this particular case, which is really what the Scotch lock gun does. And then that's secured. Okay, so now we'll go through and we'll do the same thing with all the pairs. You can just bend those down out of the way. So do it like that. Now when you're doing this, if you cut yourself short, you're gonna have a difficult situation, right? See? So that's where you can get into one of the problems with a Scotch lock. You can see where the wire is up in there and it just barely got caught down here. So if you put enough force on that, you can potentially pull that apart. And 9 times out of 10 that happens when you put the cover on. So that's something to be careful of. Now when you got a Scotch lock gun, it's a much nicer process. It's not nearly as tedious. And you can, generally speaking, get it done a lot quicker. But seeing that we are neither working on a real cable nor working on a real timeline, kind of is what it is. So as we have discussed previous to this, there were beans. Now I have a beam press, but I don't have any beans, of course. And then there are amps, which you wouldn't use in this particular application, but we'll use in another application. Oops. And then they're squared, which we're definitely going to see here in a little bit. Almost done. Okay, so this cable is now fully spliced. So what you want to do is you want to get it all into a nice tight ball, just like that. Okay. Once you've got it in a nice tight ball, then you slowly and gently start working the grease cup down so that you can start getting it into the grooves, and you basically are just screwing it on. Now you'll notice that on this particular case, the grease is just on the inside there. I don't know if you can see inside there, you can see a little bit of the grease that's coming out here, right? This is essentially the grease that's in the cable. Okay, so now, for all intents and purposes, this particular cable is spliced and this is good to go. As long as it doesn't get run over or the cable doesn't get ripped apart, then you're fine. Now another thing that we used to do in the field was you would take another wrap of tape and put it around here, about 10 or 15 layers. So it makes a really big bulky tape wrap. And what that does is that if this cable gets pulled, it'll pull that tape wrap up, and as it goes up further, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and then it won't go any further. Because what can happen is these can get pulled apart, and it can actually pop this cap right off. So we don't want that. But for all intents and purposes, this is a completed 6-pair splice.